Welcome to Live Life Better. This is Scott Eastwood. I want you to live the best version of your life. We're all human beings, all just trying to figure it out. Find something you love and chase it. Ooh, yeah, okay. We are back on Podcast Central. Jesus, it's been a minute since we've been on, huh, Tim? What has it been, 3 weeks?
Yeah, man.
No,
I haven't
months.
seen you
3
in
months.
3 months, 2 months.
A lot's happened. I broke my ankle. I shot a movie called The Outpost. And on my way doing that, I met a man named Daniel Rodriguez, who we interviewed today. Pretty incredible story. The author of Rise, about his life. We talk about him going through a pretty incredible experience and turning it into a real positive. What else do we talk about?
Football.
Oh, yeah.
Entrepreneurship.
Being
overcoming
positive.
adversity.
Yeah.
Discipline.
People. Discipline. I can't stress that enough. I mean, you got to have a regiment and you got to stick to it. You got to hold yourself accountable because no one else is going to but yourself. So hope you like this podcast. It was really great talking to Mr. Rodriguez. Here we go.
Great Scott!
We live?
Are we live? We are live.
Are we live? We are live. Woo! Thanks for coming in, bud.
Thank you for having me, man.
Man, I'm looking at your book here. This is pretty awesome. It's pretty powerful. Rise. I like it, man. No, I really do. I'm looking at it. I'm sitting across from Daniel Rodriguez. If you don't know him, you got to check out his book. He's lived a pretty incredible life to date, and you are only 30 years old.
Getting old, man.
Yeah. You did a lot, though. You did a lot, man. You've lived a lot of life.
Yeah.
You've been to war twice, right?
27 months of combat.
27 months of combat.
Yeah. Done a few things. Did in a reverse style. So did university after the military. So kind of did that backwards to most people's experiences. And so that kind of set me up seeing war, and then going back to school kind of just gave me a different mindset on how I wanted to attack life in my early 20s. So that kind of set me up for achieving a lot of goals that I had put in for myself.
Sure.
Coming back from war and stuff.
So we just did a movie together.
We did.
Which is pretty cool.
It was amazing.
And it's based really on something you went through, which was...
Battle of Kamdesh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those who don't know what that is, do we want to start there?
You tell me. I don't know.
It is Veterans Day. Anyway. It's Veterans Day. I think we should.
Yeah,
Jump in.
Right.
It's fitting.
It's a bit, yeah.
Who are we talking to, Scott?
Who are we talking to?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
We haven't introduced our guest yet.
I have. This is Daniel Rodriguez.
Oh, sorry. I was
Sitting
walking around doing shit.
Man,
My
you
bad,
better
sorry.
get on your shit,
All right.
brother.
We haven't been around for a minute.
No, I haven't. A lot's happened since we did our last podcast.
I know.
We went to Bulgaria. We shot this movie.
Yeah.
I broke my ankle.
Crazy.
It was like a crazy 3 months that
Surfed in
we
Portugal.
I went to Portugal. Yeah, it was wild.
It was good.
Yeah, man. Okay. So for people who don't know, because this is a pretty important piece of history, and I think people need to know about this if they don't. 2009. Let's start there, and then we can work our way maybe forward or backwards.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2009, let's see, I was 21 years old at the time, and I was on my second deployment in Afghanistan to the Nuristan province, up in the Hindu Kush Mountains on the Pakistan border. And it was a renowned hotspot going into it already, so we were kind of anticipating that we'd be under heavy enemy attack, or at least not heavy, but suppressed enemy attack at a constant rate. And sure enough, that's how it was. I mean, from the first day that I stepped boots on ground, the next morning we got attacked, and that's how it was for the 6 months of the duration I was on that post. And in that province, we were at a combat outpost called Keating, which was very isolated, the furthest north in Afghanistan for troops at that time, in 2009. So, I mean, just kind of our own little island, if you will, out in the middle of nowhere. And
with how many people?
About roughly 45 to 50 of us. I think it was like 50 Americans off and on, give or take, was the average, rotating through. And this base was located at the bottom of three mountains. So it was surrounded on all sides. So at complete disadvantage.
Which is completely not what you would do in any other military situation, right?
Completely against the norm. 101 strategic is take the high ground, so you can have that advantage. And we did not. We were literally in a fishbowl, a lot of us called it. We were constantly fighting up every single time we'd get attacked. Our guns were pointed upwards towards the clouds. So, that kind of gives you an idea of the terrain landscape. So into this deployment, about 4 months in, we were getting hit, bombarded all the time, but about 3 to 4 months in, we started getting like walkie-talkie chatter between the Taliban soldiers in the mountaintop, saying they're going to overrun us with 300 plus Taliban, 400 plus Taliban soldiers. And we'd hear this attack and we'd be like, what the hell? So we'd go to our positions and get on our guns, and nothing would happen all night. And next morning we get attacked, or next afternoon we get attacked, same thing. Mounting up 400 plus soldiers to overrun Combat Keating. So the same thing, we'd go to our stations. Weeks would go by, it became a laughing joke, the crying wolf scenario type deal. So,
but there were little attacks in between,
100%. Right? So that's exactly how we got the intel of them saying what they were saying, was every time that they would attack us, they would give a report of how successful the attack was. And a lot of times their reports would indicate that they killed several Americans, which was false. So us interpreting the intercept would be successful attack, killed 3 Americans at Combat Outpost Keating, mounting up 300 plus Taliban soldiers to overrun. And that's what would be the translation on a 2 to 3 time week basis. And after a month of hearing it, you just start kind of laughing. It was just like, we thought it was a morale booster in between, the Taliban saying that they killed Americans to keep the morale alive, or saying that they're going to mount up all these fighters to continue the fight, because nobody had ever seen that type of, enemy coordination mounted up against American forces since Vietnam, I believe, is since Vietnam. So to have that amount of mass against this little of a combat outpost, think about you don't hear about these stories of 300 to 400 Taliban fighters completely overrunning a little isolated cop in the middle of Afghanistan. It doesn't happen anymore. We're big bad America, we have the first world technology, and yet we were very vulnerable. So on the morning of October 3rd, 2009, that's the day they weren't crying wolf. We got completely hit by a complex ambush attack from all sides, complete chaos and hell. They took out our generators, just a constant bombardment of RPGs, RPG-7s, small arms fire, disc rounds. So we were getting hit from all sides, taking casualties very early, and it was a horrific day.
This is 5 a.m., 6 a.m.?
Like rough 6 a.m. So I had woken up to go use the computer, and I had grabbed just my little 9mm pistol because I was going to bring back a tray of food for the guys in my hooch. And so the sun was barely coming up, so it was first thing in the morning, and no longer than me being down on the computer for 10 minutes, the attack started happening. And as the attack started happening, I could hear the rockets coming in and hitting, and I was like, damn, this is pretty intense, as opposed to just like 3 or 4, then some small arms and back and forth fire as they usually were. This one was just 7, 8, 9, 10 rockets, and just then you lose track because they're just coming in so constant. And that's when it was kind of going off my head, like, okay, we're getting hit hard. So all I had was a 9mm, put my helmet back on, and kind of ran out the aid station door. And I made a 200-meter run uphill, under fire, not realizing how crazy the day was going to unfold.
This is back to your mortar pit, right?
Mm-hmm. So where I slept at and where I fought out of was the mortar pit, and this was actually the furthest north of the COP. So in AR whatever, Army regulation dash whatever, when you set up a base, or set up a platoon or a field or a COP, you're supposed to put your indirect fire directly in the middle of the base. That gives you the best chance of 360-degree support of fire from your enemy attack, right? You put your biggest gun right in the middle, you dig a hole, bury them to cover them, and now you have complete 360 protection. Well, when we set up our base, the terrain was so screwed, if you will. We had our mortar pit completely outside of the parameters, if you will, of our base. So we were kind of isolated outside of even our furthest checkpoint, LRAS 2. So when you looked at our base from an aerial perspective, you had, what was the majority meat and potatoes a base, and then you had a little speck even a little bit further out there that was a mortar platoon. So when we got attacked, or that morning of, I had to walk all the way down every time to get food or anything, use the restroom, use the email. I had to walk a 3-minute walk all the way down the hill to the inside to the where everybody was at. We were isolated. So that morning when I came down to get the stuff, I had to go into town, if you will. And when the attack started humming, I had to run all the way back through town to get to my fighting position, which was, out of town. So my machine gun was on the furthest north side. And as I was running, I saw LRAS 2, which was a fighting position, getting hit so hard that I knew I had to continue to get to my spot. And as I'm running, under fire, I'm just kind of looking up in the switchbacks, and there's just nothing but muzzle flash. I mean, just straight across. And I just remember kind of thinking to myself, holy shit, this is like crazy. And I'm like kind of running in a zigzag, and I have a 9mm and I'm just shooting it. Just every time I see muzzle flash, I'm just shooting. And I'm just yelling at LRAS 2, like friendly, because I just see this 50 cal just rocking on this Humvee, just and I'm just yelling friendly. And I go to dive behind the Humvee to take cover, and this RPG or a mortar or something just smashes like right next to me, just boom, just hits, kind of sprays the side of the Humvee, kind of hits me back. And I remember looking up, and there's just 50 cal ammo shells like just hitting the truck of the Humvee and just like kind of raining off like right next to me. And I'm just like this moment of like utter chaos. And I kind of just peel back around the truck, keep shooting, and just run to my position. And as I'm coming into my position at the mortar pit, trying to get to my machine gun, I'm sitting there getting on it, and my best friend Thompson, he's coming out from his hooch where he's sleeping, and he's coming out like entering into this world of hell as I've already ran through it. And we make eye contact, and I kind of give him a position of switchbacks, and he walks in front of me to get to his gun, and I just see his rifle drop, and I see him hit the ground, and he had taken a round to the head, just instant. And that's when it was, very apparent that this was going to be a pretty hectic day. As far as I could tell, we were getting hit from all sides. People were, being awakened from their slumber, in the midst of Armageddon. And I had just seen my best friend killed in front of me, and it hadn't even been 5 minutes into the fight. So, and it was almost 18-hour from start to finish duration. We were...
Is that moment when you see your friend die like that in that situation, is that even register in that moment, really? Like that's...
It does and it doesn't, if that makes sense. I've seen people shot and I've seen people killed, unfortunately, more than one occasion. And when somebody's hit with a bullet, it's either extreme agony or nothing at all. And in that moment, the way he fell, and I just saw, the way he hit the ground, I knew that he was dead before, So when I say it registered and it didn't, like I knew there was nothing I could do, so I really didn't have time to feel. And in that split second, you realize it's a kill or be killed situation, so you have to continue to fight or you're going to be the next one popped off. So As much as it kills you in that moment, you also know that there's still a fight to be won. And I think that's the soldier's mentality, is to be able to switch on fight or flight mode, combat mode, and then switch. The difficulty in soldier is turn it on, and then when they come back to turn it off. So it was pretty disturbing to see it right then and there, but I really didn't have time to react to
process it.
Yeah, I was just continuing to fight.
So then you make it back.
Yeah.
I mean that's 5 minutes,
yeah.
10 minutes into the firefight, right?
Yeah, I make it back, and it progressively got worse, the fight. We ended up getting an Apache shot and hit, and had to turn around.
And that was your initial air support that was supposed to come in and help.
And when you hear Apaches are on the way, you take a sigh of relief, like oh, thank goodness. And then you hear check that, bird's been hit. Come to find out they had Dishkas hiding in the mountains waiting for them to come through. They had studied our flight patterns of the Apache runs, like everything to a T. They had been taking notes of what we were going to do. So the Apaches had been turned around. We had already taken like 3 to 4 casualties that we knew about. We had one missing in action. About 3 hours into the fight, 2 to 3 hours into the fight, they had actually breached the wire. It may have been sooner. They had actually breached the wire into our our positions, and we were killing inside of our wire, throwing hand grenades from where we slept at. It was maddening. And until we got fixed wings and gun runs to come in, it was just hell on earth. And a lot of people, did a lot of heroic things, such as, how we met, you playing Clint Romeshay in the Outpost. And if it wasn't for guys like him, constructing what to do or orchestrating what to do, in the most intense time of their life, I probably wouldn't be here today, nor would a lot of other men. So, it was one hell of a day. A lot of people died. A lot of people did a lot of killing. But ultimately, we gained back what was ours through courage, perseverance, grit, determination, and a lot of bombs. A lot of bombs. So, and that was October 3rd in 2009. And it's funny is I survived that, and I still had 6 months left of my deployment, so I didn't even get to go home.
I know, man. And talking to you guys out there, I was shocked to hear that story multiple times. That after such an event, you guys had to stay out there. There was no. Okay, I survived, and I'm going home now to see my family and my friends, and to rebuild my life. Yeah, you're in it. You got 6 more months.
Yeah, it's true. The older I get, it kind of grows on me as a badge of courage to a degree. I think of our Vietnam era vets who were, a lot of them drafted and went through hellacious times, and they didn't have a say to come home, and they had to stick it out, and what they endured, and then came home to a lot of society not accepting them and what they went through. For me to be able to say I went through hell on earth and still had to stick it out for 6 months and come home, it kind of gives me a chip on my shoulder, just a little bit, because we live in a soft generation, I believe, and that's not necessarily wrong, but I feel we live in a sensitive society. Yeah. And for me to kind of endure what I did to come back, I feel gives me an advantage on how I proceed in my life and the perspective that I carry due to my experience. So I've tried to switch the winds of PTSD and use it to my advantage of what conflict and war has brought into my life, as opposed to let it be, a staple of suffering and woes. So yeah, it is an interesting time. It's
going through what you went through, right, and going through the Army and having to endure what you endured, and to really serve your time for this country. You can see it just in the way you carry yourself. You have a work ethic and a grit about you that a lot of people that never have to go through that don't ever have. And then because of that, they view the world through a lens that is just different. Mm-hmm. And it will always be different. And their truth and their reality is just it's just different. And it's hard for me to understand that lens. Yeah. Just because I'm from a I was raised. My dad was not an easy guy to have as a father, and so that sort of stuff. You talk about like a sensitive generation. It is, and there's nothing wrong with being more open to people and being more sensitive, but I think people have lost their edge for work and for what is.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. I see it's we kind of, for me, the path that I chose definitely made me appreciate what I had more. When I left for war or for basic training, for that matter, I tell people I didn't join the Army in a patriotic manner of I'm going to go serve my country. I barely graduated high school. My father died of a massive heart attack, and I found myself making excuses with my life and needed some type
This is before you even look. So let's rewind for a second.
Yeah.
Because this book that I'm looking at,
yeah,
you had a dream.
I did.
Before you even went to the Army.
True.
And that was football, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think back as a kid sneaking downstairs to watch Monday night and, you know, just always in the backyard making the game-winning touchdown. And it was just a part of my life. My father was the athletic director at the Marine Corps base Quantico in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
So I was born and raised in Virginia and grew up, you know, on the athletic side of things, just always being in a gym after school, being dropped off at the courts or something like that. So sports have always been a huge influence in my life.
And that was your father who like really propelled that, because he was
my coach. He, you know, it was just as much my coach as my dad through from little league until, you know, pretty much he passed away, you know, AAU basketball until I was 18. So football was just always a love. And
your father passed away from a heart attack.
Yeah.
All of a sudden?
Yeah, 4 days after I graduated high school, I took off to what we call like Beach Week to go with my friends. It was in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, so we went down to, you know, go party as 18-year-olds, and we, you know, we have the whole world figured out now. We just graduated high school. So I'm going down there, and I make it my first night, just absolutely, you know, you get hammered, you know, like Parrot Bay or whatever you're drinking, you know, whatever you had your older brothers buy you for the week. And I'm hugging a toilet, and mind you, like my first night, you know, and I get a call, and I like see it's my phone, like my mom, and I kind of ignore it. And I'm literally like hugging this toilet in this like emotional state of like, you know, just, you know, you're
very
hugging,
vulnerable.
yeah. And I have like this essence of like at this moment, like I can feel like my dad, like almost like cradling me, like over this like blackout moment of mine, which is really weird, but like I remember like having this feeling. And that's actually my mom was calling me to let me know my dad was like had passed, like was in the hospital. And then, you know, they kind of held it and flew me back literally the next morning. Like I'm hungover, but, you know, they had circulated like local like friends and family got word to me, you know, got me a car out of there, and like, you know, a little plane from Myrtle Beach to Richmond, Virginia, like a little hopper flight, and got me home because whatever. So, but it was like this like I had just graduated, thought everything, went down to Myrtle Beach, like was having like this one night, like got hammered, had to come home the next day, like dad had died, and it was like a wake up call, because fun literally ended there. Like it was almost like bittersweet. Like I had accomplished, got this degree, this sacred piece of paper that, you know, nobody can take away from you. This is your education. And I went down to celebrate, and it was like, you know, real life starts now. You know, the whole saying, the real world, you know, that was me.
Yeah.
I was slipping through the cracks. You know, I was a, you know, charismatic guy, so people liked me. I was popular. I played sports, but, you know, I had a struggle with my parents at home. My grades were shit. As long as I stayed eligible for sports, nobody really cared. And then once my dad died, it was like, okay, well, there goes the money. You know, all my friends that have been accepted into four-year universities are leaving, and I was kind of left, you know, with my hands in my pocket, and the facade had only carried me thus far. And when I tell people about the military, it was almost like I saw it as a honorable way I saw it as an honorable way to get out of town without letting people know I really was, you know, a fuck up. Like I had pissed my opportunity and, you know, privilege away. Like, you know, dad died, mom had already left, and I was sitting there with, you know, a GPA that didn't qualify me, and an SAT score that didn't get me into any transcripts, nor did I have any money to pay for a community college. So it was either a sink or swim, make excuse, or, you know, shit or get off the pot scenario. And the military just looked like the option to get me out of town as soon as possible. And there I went.
Like within a couple months?
I was in a recruiter station not even 2 weeks after my dad died, and 3 days later I was in Fort Benning, Georgia. Did 14 weeks of basic training, and by the end of that year, so dad died like June or July, end of June, and by the end of December I was graduating basic training that year. And 24 days after basic, I got shipped off to my first deployment, which was Iraq. And I was in Baghdad during the surge, during the Bush administration, for 15 months. Came home, hell there, just PTSD. My platoon was the most like heavily, like I don't even call it an accolade, but deemed, if you will, like the most hellacious platoon to come back in whatever recorded military history. We had domestic violence, murders, like it was crazy. The PTSD and like that entire era of like readjustments, it was chaotic. So, you know, I was in a time frame, you know, before the social media push and age where, you know, there was hashtags and, you know, causes brought to relevancy, and it was kind of still shadowed and swept under the rug of what our soldiers were going through. And I'm very fortunate to have made it through those cracks without having killed myself like so many of my friends had coming home from war. So I did a 15-month tour in Iraq before I was even I came home at 20. I wasn't even able to buy a handgun to protect myself nor drink a beer, yet my country just sent me off to war to fight, and I had a handgun on me every day, and I was very bitter about that. And I come home and I was like, I felt robbed of my safety. You took my gun away from me, and now I come home and I can't even buy one legally, nor can I drink a beer. Like, fuck you. That's how I felt. And you're a little rebellious 19-year-old, and you buy a handgun illegally and you're rolling around Colorado Springs on base like with a fake ID, and you don't really care, and you think you're bulletproof because you just went through a 13th month deployment in Baghdad where you survived getting blown up and seeing friends die. And then you already know you got orders to go back to Afghanistan in less than a year, and they're sending you off to sniper school and air assault school, and you go through all this, and you just kind of have this mentality about you where you feel lawless in a way. And especially for me, having seen combat in Iraq and seeing friends die and coming home and trying to adjust, it was difficult. And then before I knew it, I had orders already to go back to Afghanistan. And I told you a little bit about that deployment already. So, I didn't have.
And you even had like some people that you bunked with.
Oh yeah,
literally lose their minds.
Yeah, I was telling you about that guy Marco. Yeah, my bunkmate. To segue on that whole how crazy our platoon and unit was coming home from Iraq. My bunkmate in Iraq named Robert Marco from Michigan. Crazy, kind of had like a crazy eye. He had a little bit of a Tourette, and so that's not. It just anyway. He just had a little Tourette. He was a little crazy out there. Yeah,
sure.
And he like wholeheartedly believed he was and the reason I know the story so well is because we grilled him for hours in the middle of Iraq with nothing to do. He wholeheartedly believed he was the reincarnated version of a alien terrestrial dinosaur thing called Rex 290 from some celestial planet that he honestly believed he was going to reincarnate into at the age of 21. And we would sit there and be like, Marco, shut up, like this is your fairy tale. And he had books, like drawings that he had dedicated time on guard. So
he obviously had mental problems.
Yes,
already.
and you would ask him like some question, he would like break down like how it was like bizarre, but at the same time entertaining when you're in the middle of Baghdad, whatever.
Sure.
So fast forward, we get home from deployment, his 21st birthday hits. Shocker, Marco doesn't, reincarnate into Raptor 290. And, we come home from the bars and stuff like this, and, we don't think anything of it. And the next day, there's just like this caution tape all around our barracks. And we're like, what the hell? And somebody comes out and is like, dude, Marco. It was like, Marco didn't reincarnate last night. We're like, what? Like, just kind of laughing about it. Well, in his beliefs, if his reincarnation didn't exist, he had to make a human sacrifice. And he went out and had corralled, if you will, a chick on MySpace or Facebook at the time, I think it was Facebook, that had actually a learning disability, which is really sad about the story, and murdered her, slit her throat in the mountains, and absolutely like murdered a chick, and fully admitted to it. He's serving life now in, I think, Leavenworth without parole, and just like that was the clientele that I was going into the military with.
Fuck.
And I was not saying that's everybody, but that was my bunkmate. I remember being like watching the news, like sitting at a bar drinking a beer, and a picture that I had taken on my camera was like the picture on CNN, like that they were using. And I was like, holy crap, like this is so close to home. Like, and that was like a very rugged time of the military, going through the surge and the Bush campaign, and that era of just 15-month deployment. So that was a hectic time.
Do you think that's too long of a time to be away from home? Like I always hear that, and I'm like, I mean, I imagine they probably do it because of money.
Yeah,
right. It's cheaper to keep you out there than it is to.
Maybe I've heard a few. It's just, maybe money's it, and it's also just the insurgency, the counterinsurgency, like having a presence there with the same person of trust for a little bit longer, I think establishes, because the Marine Corps only does 6 to 9 month deployments. Special operations only do 6-month deployments, sometimes 3-month deployments. It's really your grunt, real of the mill or run of the mill soldier, your pawns, if you will, your political pawns.
Wow.
That do your 12 to 15 month deployments. So, I was just kind of and look, I trace my steps back now and say everything that unfolded in my life, good and bad, in the military, I volunteered for, and that's on my shoulders. You know, I made my choices in life that led me to a recruiter station, and my country was in a time of war when I volunteered to go infantry. So everything that went from there, I never like blame or point a finger. Like, my path, my destiny thus far has been chosen by me. So, you know, having all that with me, I say, you know, I served with a lot of people that was their last resort, the military, like going into it.
Do you feel like you really knew what you were getting yourself into?
Not at all.
Not even a little bit.
No, and it's funny, like, I have like these vivid, like, little flash montage memories of high school, of like walking in, you know, around dinner time or something from like practice, and the news would be on and seeing, and I just remember hearing, and the latest from the war in Iraq, you know, and it's just like snippets of that, and
Sure.
that was really, so you knew the war in Iraq, September 11th happened when I was in 8th grade, you know, I was in middle school watching the towers fall, and the Pentagon got hit, so my school actually got on shutdown. I'm 20 minutes outside the Pentagon, so the Pentagon got hit, like, so all this stuff on 9/11 was very close to home. But yeah, I'm sorry, what'd you ask? Wait,
No, I just said if you knew what you were really entering when you...
Not at all. Yeah, that's what I was saying. So yeah, like, having a sense growing up that the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, we had a presence there. I was in a very pro-military, you know, government, political driven demographic family as well. My father was a veteran, so it was a very, you know, pro-veteran. So even though I had an idea when I enlisted and all this, it's actually a funny story. At the recruiter station, I scored very well in my ASVAB, minus my GPA out of high school, barely graduating. It wasn't that I wasn't smart enough. I just didn't apply myself. I didn't care. I was very smart, witty, whatever. So when I took my ASVAB for the military, I actually...
And that's the test you have to take to get in to choose which job you're going to...
Exactly. It scores you, and then based on your score, it categorizes you on what you qualify for. I categorized highest. I qualified for every job in the military. So I had actually picked satellite communication was my original choice. My father used to say, if you join the military, get a trade out of it, something you can do outside of it. Don't go infantry. Don't go infantry. My dad was infantry. So what did my hard head do? I try to go by what father said, but as I'm finalizing my paperwork, I had marked on there to admitting smoking marijuana at least one time within 6 months, and I lost my security clearance that I couldn't reapply for up to 6 months in order to get my...
Whoa. You marked, I smoked marijuana in the last 6 months.
Yeah. So how they do it is they make it, they come into a room and you're sitting there swearing in. You got your right hand raised, you know, you swear.
And you're already like satellite.
I'm already in the military. I've already taken my ASVAB. I'm already clearing it. And I admitted because they made it sound, because they were going to do a background check. They said that they told me they're going to do background checks. They're like, just be honest. Like, we're not here to blah, blah, blah. So I said, and I was a fucking stoner in high school. I smoked every day. But I checked the box and I, you know, said one time it was an experimental, you know, graduation night, you know.
Sure.
And this is
And
this is like only a month removed from my graduation. My, you know, dad just died like month, whatever. So I'm like trying to get the hell out of town. And so I got the job that, you know, dream job, cake job, security clearance, bonus going to the military, check the box. Yes, I smoked one time. And I'm sitting there and the lady goes, oh, I'm sorry, we're going to have to resubmit everything in 6 months. Is that okay? And I'm like, hell no, it's not okay. Like, I got to go now. Like, I've already left. I've already burnt ship, you know? And it was this moment, like, everything inside of me from a kid that wanted to be military, watching Hacksaw Ridge, like just little stuff like that. My dad was obsessed with your dad, like every Western. So like military was ingrained into me, like just soldier type thing. My dad was a veteran, like I said. So everything I always played, you know, with face paint and manhunt in the woods was camouflage. Like that was my inner hunting. Like that was me. So it was almost like when this evaporation of the security clearance and everything happened, it was like this moment of, oh, like, now's your chance to be the infantry soldier. And it was in Richmond, Virginia. And there's this black lady. She's like at the MEP sing, and, you know, I'll never forget, she's got like her nails all nice and long on her keyboard and, you know, just manicured to a T. And it goes in front of me, and I was like, well, and I asked her, I was like, well, do you have any infantry? And she just looks at me, like, kind of gives me this stern, she goes, infantry? And I'm like, yes, ma'am. And she goes, you do know we're in a time of war, don't you? Like this, like,
oh wow.
And I go, yeah. And I go, actually, and it was like kind of like this dawning like moment of clarity, like she's trying to give you a like a heads up, bro. Yeah. And I go, yes, ma'am, I do. And she goes, you sure? I was like, yeah. Types in her phone, makes a phone call, and that's when she looks at me. She goes, are you willing to leave tomorrow, type thing. So I went into the recruiter station one day. The next day they took me to MEPS, swore in, and then that day as I'm there thinking I'm going to satellite, it's changed on me. She's like, are you willing to leave tomorrow? And I go, yeah. So I go home. They drive me all the way back home. I take my mom and sister out to dinner, and I'm like, hey, I joined the military. And they're like, okay, when do you leave for basic? I'm like, tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I never went home. I went straight from there to Iraq. So
they said you're gonna have to you cannot do this job in 6 months because you smoked weed. They wanted like a 6 month gap
6 month
between someone smoking weed.
Yeah,
or
6
not?
months sobriety. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
And it's like looking back, it's so petty, but what it is they want to weed out the dumb ones, or the ones that admit to it, because the process just makes it easier for them. Like, they're really not trying to out you. You had to pass a drug test to get into that position I was in. You know, like, to get to that, I had to piss clean in order to take my ASVAB, in order to apply. So it was just like them, another check to, sift through okay, what idiot can we get out of here to, and that was me. I just, but like I said, as my life would have it, it was almost like a meant to be timeline, if you will, because I did everything against my gut to do good on the ASVAB. Not that I was going to bomb it to get infantry. I just, went in there doing the best I could. Mm-hmm. And I checked every box that I qualified for, but I disqualified myself by saying I had smoked weed one time, and it took everything away. So it was kind of funny.
It is interesting. It's like it did bring you to a different place in your life, right? And it brought you to.
We wouldn't be here. That's for sure.
And arguably, what you did on that day in 2009, to save, you don't give yourself enough credit, I don't think, to save all the other people's lives and help your part in that battle. It's interesting. It's a very interesting, man, fate and choices, right? They're like, it's like they're tied together. Like, that you have some control because you make a choice, but then it sets you on a path.
Yeah.
And in this case, right, you were set on this path, and I'm going to bring this up because it's part of your book and because it's a really interesting next chapter of your life. You made a promise to someone while you were in Afghanistan, and then you went and kept it.
Yeah. And it's kind of wild, but it's in Afghanistan. It's in those remote places of hell of where you start, appreciating the little things that you had. And I had a dose of it in Iraq, missing home, that social media age. Like, I remember logging on to computers and seeing my friends at like Kagers at their first year of college, their first semester at college. And I'm at my first semester of war, and it's like, that was such a mind game. Like,
yeah.
And then, flash forward, another deployment in Afghanistan, I was just so over like that lifestyle, like just being in third world countries and fighting and I didn't want to be defined by my military career for the rest of my life. And so Thompson and I, my best friend Thompson, we would talk about what we wanted to do after, and we were both fairly set
This is in Afghanistan.
And what we were going to do after we were going to get out, and our times are coming up. My 4-year.
You're how old now?
21 in Afghanistan. And so my 4-year window is coming to a close on my timeline. And so I was pretty sure, I actually wanted to go Special Forces. And if it wasn't for October 3rd, that battle, I probably would have. Like, after that day, it changed my fucking life. I was like, I think I'm going to not go military anymore. So we would always be.
Because of that day?
Hell yeah, man.
Wow.
I mean, I was 21, had been wounded. Like, I had done 27 months, or at that time, 2 tours, and it was just like, I was over it. And I saw enough friends. I lost 12 friends in Iraq, and then I had just lost 8 in one day. Like, that was 20. Not to mention the 9 that I've known since that have killed themselves post-war. It was just a time where I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. And Thompson and I would just talk about what we wanted to do after we got out. And it's funny how just the love of athletics never left me, because the only thing I could think about was, I'm still eligible to play college sports. I want to use my GI Bill to get my education, and I want to go back and try to play college football. And I would tell him, like, I want to go back and play college football. And he would just like, you know, you have a lot of people, not a lot of people, but, you know, you state an ambitious idea or dream to most people, and I feel they're very smuggish or not accepting of the dreamer's mentality. You know, they're just kind of like,
Sure.
they're a doubter before they're a believer. Thompson's
That comes from a place of like insecurity of people, because they
100%.
don't want to face their own
Absolutely.
stuff. So it's easier to bash people and go, that's stupid, or like, well, come on, you're not going to be able to do that, or
for sure.
You know.
And I think too, like you break down, you know, just the equation of two guys talking in Afghanistan, and one tells the other, hey, you know, we're about to go through the bloodiest battle in, you know, U.S. history in Afghanistan, but then I'm going to go on and play Division I football. What do you think? And a lot of people would, you know, probably, haha, good story. And Thompson was the one that'd be like, hell yeah, like just so encouraging, like almost oblivious to the impossible, that it made him such a significant tool to have on with me in a part of my life during that deployment, because he was just such the guy to bring you out of any low place. And we would bounce ideas and what we wanted to do, and every time I'd tell him I wanted to play football, he'd be like, dude, that'd be so badass, like promise me you're gonna play, like, you know, this, that, and the other. And it was just like this encouraging, like, reassurance that, you know, somebody believes in you, and, you know, you're in this remote place in Afghanistan. And then 2 weeks later he was killed, like right in front of me during the firefight. So when I came home, it was at first, when I came home from the deployment, two things. I ended my service. So I had 3 months of stabilization until I got out of the Army. So I was getting out of the Army for good. And I just, you know, come through hell on earth. So I was at this crossroads of post-traumatic stress heavy, like crazy, like suicidal thoughts, like not sure what my purpose was, like just so pissed off. Like, you know, I had another friend kill themselves, and I ended up getting a dog that I attribute saving my life. Like this puppy just saved my life. You know, I named her Valor after my awards, and it was just having this dog like carry me through like low times. But ultimately it was a promise, like telling Thompson I was going to play football, that I was very close to taking my own life. Had the letter written, you know, was cleaning.
You wrote the letter?
Yeah, wrote the letter, cleaning. I'll tell you an even funnier story. I have a gun on the table, you know, and I'm about to, you know, do this letter and contemplating like just dumb things I'm telling myself, like just whatever. And I look out the kitchen window, and my yard is horrendous. I left 4 years ago for the Army, and my dad had passed away, so it was mom and sister. You know, my friends would come around and help as much as they could on our property, but it's my mom, she's widowed, and my sister, like they can't remove tree branches and mow. Sure. Like that's not, you know, their thing. And I remember like looking out as I have this letter written out, and I just think to myself, I cannot have my yard look like this when people come for my wake or whatever. And I tell people it's like, it must be my inner Hispanic, but I was just like, I got to go out there and fix this yard. And I did, like tears in eyes. I went out there for 4.5 hours, mowed the yard, cleaned the gutters, like just got this yard pristine as I could. And I'm sitting there on my back deck, and it just starts raining, you know, like when the sun is still out, but it's like raining. And I'm just sitting there like bawling my eyes out, like crying, like I'm gonna see you again, Dad. But it was like this moment of clarity, like in this rain I kept hearing Thompson's voice, like, you promised me, bro, like you promised me. So I went from literally almost killing myself to mowing my yard and having this moment of clarity in the rain of reestablishing, you know what, you think you have no purpose, but you promised your best friend you're going to try to play college football, and if that's all you have to hold on to, that's going to be your purpose in life. So quit fucking making excuses. It starts right now. And that was kind of like a light switch for me of like, you don't have that much to bitch about. Like there are a lot of people struggling. There are a lot of mothers right now, you know, not seeing their sons, your friends, ever again. And you have health, you have opportunity, you have air in your lungs. Why are you holding yourself back? And I just felt that it was going to be more of a discredit to my friends that died if I personally didn't become something, not successful, but just something of credibility for them to remember or to live by, right? They died in vain if I'm just another statistic, if I blow my brains out and I'm just another dumbass veteran, or not dumbass, dumb beat veteran that comes home and kills himself. But if I can flip the script and be something great and use my tribulations as better than everybody that suffered in my or paid the cost of sacrifice in my line of journey, they didn't die in vain. I make sure that what they went through is going to make sure my life represents greatness, because I've had people pay the price for me to be where I'm at, and that was kind of a decision I made on my back deck, in my tears. It was just like, you promised a friend and you're sitting here sulking over volunteering in the military and what has unfolded for that, and you have an opportunity right now, like, go live it. And it was just like, couldn't even sleep that night. I was so excited to just start like working out, and that went from me like in my basement, like doing push-ups, like just switching the script of anything detrimental, because at the time I was taking sleeping pills from the VA. I was not abusing alcohol, but I drank alcohol more than I ever had in my life, and I just had this dream of getting onto football, so I just quit it. And I'm a very cold turkey kind of person, and
Quit alcohol, quit
drinking, or quit smoking weed from time to time. Like, I'd smoke cigarettes every now and then with the boys, having a beer, but I quit everything. Like, I'd be DD, like, type thing, like, still hang out. And my friends, at first, it was a joke. Like, they thought I couldn't last, and a month went to 2 months. They would try to make bets on who could get me to cave to drink. And then, like, by month 4 or 5, it was like, holy crap, like, you're pretty serious about this. And I was like, oh, you have no idea. Like, and they didn't know that I had almost killed myself. Like, this was just my inner fuel now. Like, I was full go. I was like, I don't know the process or the start of being a college athlete, but I know it starts with putting down alcohol and anything bad for my diet and getting in a gym. And what was kind of brewing, if you will, to come was my transcripts out of high school were so low. When I got my transcripts, I went to my local high school to get my transcripts to enroll into a community college. And I remember looking at my GPA, my cumulative GPA from high school, and it was a 1.9. And I was so embarrassed, because when I came home, people had kind of heard about Afghanistan, and my teachers and my counselors, had heard that I'd had a Purple Heart, I'd been wounded. And so I came back, and, they're hugging me, and some of them were crying, thanking me for my service. And I remember, getting my transcripts and thinking, this is not who I am. This is not a reflection of who, I was a dumb, it hurt me. It hurt me of what opportunity I had, as a kid, and your parents working very hard to provide for you. And,
sure.
And you, just were a shithead. And it took you going through Afghanistan to come back and a light bulb to go off, and it was embarrassing to walk across the same parking lot that I grabbed my diploma from, looking at it like, you are an idiot. So as I was going through community college, that was fire under my ass. I had a 3.6 GPA my first semester at community college. I was like, I am not an idiot. I'm hitting these books to redeem myself as a pupil.
So I don't understand. You have your grades from high school. Mm-hmm. Now you have to apply to community college, right? Because you couldn't get into a 4-year.
4-year, yeah. So community college, they're very accepting. So
I'm a community college.
Yeah. So
product.
Community college, you don't need your SATs, etc. like that. You can just go in, pay. So as I'm going in, I get into community college, but I knew that my community college didn't have a football program, so that's also a thing to focus on. I was going to community college because my idea was to get as in the best shape of my life for a year, get the best grades possible, and then transfer to a 4-year university that had a football team, try out for that football team, walk onto that football team, and hope to make it on their program. So that was the thought process. So when I got into a community college, I just hit the books as hard as I could. My life revolved around working out, going to school, coming home, doing homework, working out again, and repeat for a semester, 5.5 months, going through.
Were you working a job at that time?
No. So what was fortunate for me is my GI Bill, it pays you a stipend based off, 1, you have to maintain a 2.0, and 2, it goes off of your area code. So if you live in LA as opposed to, Clemson, South Carolina, your stipend of cost of living is going to vary. So where I was at in the Northern Virginia area, I made enough stipend, and I was living back at home, where I didn't have many bills at all. It was very, very minimal. Had a dog, a truck, and I could ride my bike to class. So this is back in Virginia. So I was getting $1,200 a month, so I really didn't need to get a job, and I was a full-time student in training, so it worked out perfectly. And I was just busting my ass. And my friend's cousin had started a production company, and he comes up to me and he's like, dude, like, like a lot of these high school kids make recruitment videos. He's like, have you ever thought about putting together like a recruitment video? He's like, you're getting in really good shape, like maybe that'll help you. And I was like, I'll think about it. So I went online and started looking at them, and some of them like hype reels, and they've got like, motivational speakers and this stuff like really like, fuels you up on these videos. And I was like, maybe that's not a bad idea. So I call his cousin and we're talking it out, and he comes, I tell him my idea, like, listen, man, like I'm just working my ass off to try to get into a university that has a football program and walk on. I was like, so anything you can help me do to make a recruitment video, like I'm all for. Gives me a quote, like go back, gives me a quote of $1,500 for this video. And at the time I had no money. I had like $1,300 to my name, had just gotten out of the army. Like it was sad, like not much.
What was the reason behind doing the recruitment video?
Just getting my ability out there. Like,
oh, you're talking about for football?
Yeah, for football.
It. Even though you're in community college and you're not even.
Yeah, I'm in community college. I haven't even played a snap of football in 5 years at this point, 4.5 years. I'm 4 years removed from high school and plus a year. So 5 years I haven't even played a snap. And I had a little digital camera in my basement at my house, like doing push-ups and like foot drills. And I was like, okay, this is shit. Like no college coach is going to see a video of some Fuji camera, 8 megapixel.
Yeah, it was Fuji back then.
Like doing push-ups so like that's one of those, like, you need something professional to get your foot in the door. And then on top of that, you haven't played a snap in 5 years. So I gave my friend the creative liberty to kind of like, let's do it. And he knew who I was and what I had went through. And he goes, listen, if we do this, he's like, I think we really need to do it telling where you've been. He's like, because college coaches will appreciate that you haven't been doing nothing for the last 4 years and you've actually been doing something honorable, and now you're coming back to play.
Yeah.
He's like, I think that'd be, and I was kind of resistant at first. I was like, look, I'm not trying to, he's like, just trust me. So I give him it. We do an entire day of shooting, like wake up first thing in the morning, like follow me around. I do my 40, like running, like combine drills, like catching routes. Like I structured this entire day of shooting. And, the next day he comes back with like the first rough cut at editing. And I just remember looking at it being like, holy shit, this could be like an ESPN 30 for 30. Like, him and his buddy came out there with like the little, steady cane and crane, steady cane and crane, or steady cam and crane, like just little stuff, like just super professional.
Sure, yeah.
Nothing I'd ever done.
Give it some spruce, baby.
Yeah. And so there we are. Like a week later I have this video that's, I have, and it's on Vimeo account. So I'm sending it out to all these college coaches, and it was password protected, and they'd send it back and say, you need to make it more easily accessible. We're not willing to put a password in that we don't know what could be on the other side. Made perfect sense. So I'm like, how the hell can I get this out there? So my friend's like, just put it on YouTube. Put a URL and put it on YouTube. I'm like, okay. So I copy and paste this URL, or I create the URL, put it on YouTube. Jake Tapper has just finished writing a book called The Outpost.
Our movie.
Ironically, our movie, right? This is why this is fitting. And he's, at the time, the ABC White House correspondent. He does all the presidential debates still at this time. He's a prominent figure in DC, very huge social media platform. And I'd interviewed with him two, three times at the White House. Met him for Clint Romoché's Medal of Honor ceremony, who you're playing. So it was just ties that I had with Jake. And I go, Jake, I was like, I have this YouTube video I made. I'm trying to play college football. I was like, I don't know if you can be of any help or if any of your followers have any ties to anything college football. I was like, but would you mind retweeting this video for me? And he goes, sure. And it's like 9:00 at night. I text him. I send him the link. This time in my life, I still have silent mode now, but I used to put my phone like off because any type of bell or ring in the middle of the night would give me a flashback to like incoming or, a siren going on.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
I was going to say just to like keep my circadian rhythm,
yeah,
like, right? And you're like dealing with
deep
that.
REM, yeah. Before I knew what REM sleep was, I would have to sleep with my phone off because you have an incoming siren is very, alarming to a phone ring, and you wake up in a sweat all of a sudden. And so I turn my phone on silent or off, and the next morning I wake up and I have like 500 text messages, like over 1,000 emails, like 150 voicemails. And I was like, what in the world is going on?
Because you left your...
At the end of this YouTube recruitment video that only college coaches were supposed to see, I put my personal cell, my personal home address, my email address, my height and weight, like literally everything but my social, right? Like, who knows how many properties I have out there right now.
Definitely got bad credit.
Absolutely, yeah. So like I put all this information down, and I didn't even know what the term viral video meant. Like I didn't even know what the term was.
Well,
and
how many years ago was this?
This is 2011 or 12.
Got it. So it was like the beginning of all that. You were probably the first viral video. You might have been.
One of them. Yeah. And so overnight, this video is just being like shared and retweeted, and a million views, and then keeps on going. And within a week, I was getting like fan mail, and my emails were blowing up because all my stuff was already out there now. People were texting me and messaging me. I was getting letters of just money in the mail, no return address.
Just sending
me money and saying thank you for your service. Treat yourself to lunch. I was like, the hell with college football. I'm gonna make YouTube videos for the rest of my life. Like this is where it's at. Like,
oh yeah.
And so like that started pushing recognition, and it did work for what I had set out to do. Yes, it gave me an opportunity. I was being flown up to, Fox and Friends and CBS, and Dan Rather came to my high school and did a special on me. But in this entire process, I had about 150 college coaches reach out. Like,
oh wow,
there were a ton of people who were boards of this or alumni of that, who had, if you know anything about how the college world works, like if you're paying the right person, your email will get answered.
Yeah.
And so there were many inboxes that my video was sent from one person directly to ex-coach, enter coach name, and they saw my video, and they had my email and cell phone, and I was getting text messages from like, Frank Beamer and Coach Sweeney, Dabo Sweeney at Clemson, very just like on a steady basis through this video. So it was working. But what happened is the further they investigated on me and were presenting the opportunities to come to their school, they would see my transcripts, and I was still I had a 3.6 GPA.
You just get some whiteout on those transcripts, right?
I had a 3.6 GPA at my community college. I was 5 years removed from high school, and my GPA in high school and my SAT scores made me a non-qualifier to play NCAA sports 6 years later down the road.
What?
So I was ineligible to play sport. So Clemson University, to sum things up in this chapter of my life, Clemson was the only school. Coach Sweeney was just like, I don't even know if you can catch a pass, but I want you in my locker room. He's like, I want you in my locker room. So they put in what's known as the 2-4 transfer waiver, which waives whatever your SAT scores, and so you can immediately be eligible. And it's usually for circumstances of like the only other case that it's happened, a kid was like abandoned as a kid, and his older brother was caretaking him, who was also like only a year older. And so this kid, like the one kid suffered dramatically, grades were absolutely horrible, but the NCAA viewed it as this kid didn't have any family, like raised himself and his younger brother, like we'll make an exception type deal. Like, so my 2-4 transfer waiver like was number 2.
Wow.
And mind you, that kid that I talked about was like on Oprah. Like Oprah had him on the show, like
before that happened,
raising funds, like much awareness, right?
Yeah.
So the same thing, NCAA, like I was a non-qualifier, but also the story this time was, oh, you guys are not going to let a wounded veteran, 5 years, who fought for the country, not play college football? Like,
oh wow,
that this is on your conscience if you don't approve it, type thing. And so the NCAA got back and approved my 2-4 transfer waiver, and Clemson was the only school
that would do that,
that was willing to push paper. Other schools were like, okay, so the rule around that is you have to finish your associate's degree. So you have to do 2 years at a community college, complete your associate's degree, and then you don't have to be eligible. But if you don't have your associate's degree, you have to be a qualifier coming out of high school. So that's what that transfer waiver did. So Clemson pushed it through, got all the paperwork done, all that, and was like, we want you here. And if it wasn't for Clemson doing that, I would have waited another year to play college football. So Clemson, like, that's why I committed. I was like, I don't know if it's tomorrow or another year from now. I was like, but if you guys are willing to swing this bat for me, I was like, I'm all in for you. And that's how that relationship started building. And I committed to Clemson, went down there, didn't have a penny to my name. I had gotten accepted by the school to go to Clemson, and approved by the NCAA to play, but I still had to get approved by the ACC, the conference, the Atlantic Coast Conference, to play. So I drove down to Clemson with all my belongings in the back of my truck, and I was sleeping in, it's like a Bilo parking lot, and it's like a Piggly Wiggly. It's like a shopping store.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a shopping center. And I slept in my truck I went there the first day, toured the campus, like knew I got accepted, and I was still waiting to see if I could get up on the football team and like get housing and all this stuff. Slept in my truck for 2 days until the waiver cleared.
You had not a dollar to your name.
Not a dollar to my name.
So how were you going to get? I mean, I had to
wait for my first month of education bill to kick in.
Oh, so they were going to pay you?
They were
the
going to
Army.
pay me. The Army was, but I still didn't know if I could play football. And I was like living in my truck.
Who was going to cover the tuition?
Well, I had to get a student loan, right? And that's another story too, because I'm a wounded veteran, right? And so I don't have any. The VA ended up covering my tuition at the end. I graduated with a year of student loan, but they back paid me because they messed up the paperwork, and as a disabled wounded veteran, I shouldn't have had to pay. So that was cleared down the road. But yeah, I didn't have a dollar to my name, went down there on a dream, waiting for a waiver to go through so I could, get some campus housing or, sport housing as an athlete. Like, it was just like gambling, like just
you're letting it ride,
I was
man.
just pushing my chips in.
I love it.
And I would always just think back to that kitchen table, like, like, bro, you've gone through hell, like, that's where you came from. That was your lowest point, like, it's time to rise, like,
yeah.
So and that was what pushed me, and that was getting into college and getting onto a roster and busting my ass. I was in phenomenal shape. By far the smallest guy on the team. I remember like going in the locker room and just seeing, this Vic Beasley, who's number 8 overall pick like 2 years ago, just this massive defensive end, and thinking, holy shit, I made a mistake. These guys are huge. Like, and then, but it was quickly like, because again, at this point I hadn't played a snap in 6 years, like 5.5 years.
Man.
And
what did you feel like going in there? Were you just like terrified?
No, I was so confident in my ability, like my athletic ability and football ability, IQ. Like, I knew I could play the game. I knew I could catch. I knew I could run. Like, I knew I had it. But
because you had done so much practicing, or because you just were that confident in your abilities from high school? Or
well, both. I was that confident in my ability in high school that I knew that I felt that I could play, and then on top of that, my training and feeling I kind of had an edge. Even though I was much the smaller of the individuals in the locker room, I had a competitive edge about me and against them because I had been in the military and was a little bit older. Sure. Like, I remember like coming in and them like, the guys would be like, oh, don't mess with G.I. Joe. He'll break your arm. Like, just like little stuff like that. And I was like, you would snap me in half if we ever got into a fight. But it was just having that little bit of an edge where,
maybe being a little bit older.
And I was tough too. Like, I was scrappy and I was in great shape. I was fast. So anytime we had like, shuttle sprints or that, I was always a team leader. Like, I just kind of brought my energy into the locker room, and it resonated well because, that's just kind of always who I've been, like a easy get along kind of guy. And when I was back into an atmosphere that I craved, sitting on those mountaintops of Afghanistan and thinking, holy hell, like, I wish I could be back in the locker room, like getting it back this time, it was such a reward of appreciation, like this wave of appreciation got into. I was just so thankful to be where I had worked so hard to be. Like, it was just like bliss. And then, you're surrounded by these phenomenal athletes that you get to compete with every single day and get better. It was just, you just evolve into that lifestyle. And as soon as you get hit for the first time, you get that adrenaline rush going back through. You're like, okay, like, I'm not going to break out here. Like, okay, let's do this. And then you just start competing, and you grow confident in the playbook and the belief in your capabilities. You start making plays. I played behind Sammy Watkins, DeAndre Hopkins, Martavius Bryant, Deshaun Watson, like absolute studs in the NFL right now. So every single day was just this, like, plugging into the matrix and learning football. Like,
wow.
Just sitting there like, I learned football, like, I know Kung Fu. Like, I came out of like 3 years of Clemson just like as an understudy to just, first round draft picks and all pro receivers. And at the end of my 3 years, I graduated 3.6 GPA, 3-time all ACC academic, graduated with honors, and that was like I was so stoked on that. And I had done all this work. Was the best shape of my life, and it was like, what's next? And I had always dreamed of playing in the NFL, and so I just decided to. I wrote the book in college. My junior year, I was approached to write the book, and so I wrote that while I was still in school, and that did well, as I was telling you, and that started launching my speaking career. So I was speaking from out of school, from college.
So now you're graduated, finished.
Almost
Finished.
Yeah, I spoke my last semester. So I was actually the only NCAA athlete to be granted permission to make money off my name while still on an active roster, because I wasn't on scholarship. And they based me being able to fly across the country and speak and to sign into a book deal as a source of income, as a job equivalent, as opposed to me being paid by.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the NCAA?
I'm not a fan of them.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
Yeah,
being a fan
I'm appreciative
of them.
and grateful for what they have done in my case in particular, but at the collective portrait painted, it's not pretty.
It's like using athletes, really. I mean, people are like, well, you're getting a college degree. It's like,
it's bullshit.
Yeah, but you're making millions and millions of dollars. The kids could be making too and still getting a college degree. Like setting them up for a good life.
100%. Like there should be some type of incentive. Could be because a lot of those kids are getting injured and not.
You get nothing.
And they're playing for usually their boss or their coach is the highest paid state employee across the board.
$10 million. What does a UCLA coach make? I already meant like $10 million.
And there's so many different. When you go professional, a lot of the facilities aren't as great. A lot of them are, but the money goes to the players. The guys are getting to go home. They're getting a proper salary.
Sure.
In college, the money goes back into the facilities. So you're surrounded by multi-million-dollar facilities, stadiums, the top-of-the-line equipment, recovery things. But that's where the money goes. So it's not in compensation to the pockets of what could better them for the future. It's what gives them the best potential to recruit the next best athlete and keep those great ones on the field before they leave.
Yeah.
And so, in my opinion, you give so much to a program, a university, a coach, what have you. And if you walk away with it from an injury, or you get an injury from that and you can't play the game you love, like you really missed out. And a lot of times there should be a fair compensation of what the player does. And if you really break it down, the school is making so much off of the players, across the board. We sell out.
And you're still paying a tuition. I mean, look, you were still paying a tuition.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's when they slap you on the ass and give you your degree and say, hey, I don't even know where the fuck my degree is.
I have an separated grade A, like shoulder, like I played through ribs. Like there's just little things that, for player safety and for bettering, I think there should be some type of system put up that you get a type of retirement. It puts 100%. Away a little bit for your 4 years. So if things don't work out for you or not, you have some money that you've collectively made.
A base to start a life. I mean, what a better way to start a young person's life is to sort of have some cushion, right?
Exactly.
To go out into the real world and figure some shit out.
And even if it was like an incentive base, like in the weight room, and okay, you've done this amount of hours, like this is your base, like we're putting away for you. But if you show up, you do extra, volunteer work, or if you do extra tutoring, or you do things that increase you as a better person, that's incentive, and there's bonuses on the back end. Like I think there should be a different type of system that we can grow men, not just breed athletes. And I think the NCAA and different system or programs could do a better job of that.
They're just taking advantage. Taking advantage of young kids who.
Have you watched a football game athletes. On TV this season? Like
a professional?
Yeah, or college.
Sure,
Since I've quit playing or stopped playing, I haven't watched that much. But now I watch it, and it's just one big advertisement. I mean, when you really break down what the NCAA has become, it's just one big advertisement. And every 30 seconds is a TV timeout, and it's brought to you by this, and it's just like people, we're really playing a sport to create a platform so people can put their branding and marketing.
Yeah.
It's all shit that's not good for you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Taco Bell. And
It's almost, I miss going to a high school football game and walking away from me like, oh, holy shit, a football game's only 2 hours?
Yeah.
Like, it's not almost 4.5 hours long. Like, no, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Still have time for a beer. Like, you know, like, so it's, you know, the times have changed. There's a lot of things that I've been able to, experience from war. You know, obviously my thoughts on war have become different, and NCAA, you know, coming out of that.
So you finish college and you decide, oh, you're doing the speaking tour.
Yeah.
Right.
Speaking, and then it hits me that I do a piece with Tom Rinaldi, a college game day piece, and, you know, he's always, you know, jerking tears out of the audience, and he's interviewing me, and he's like, you know, Daniel, what do you do after your dream comes true? And I was like, oh, well, nobody's ever asked me that before, you know. And it hit me. I was like, okay, what do I do? And I'm like looking through. I've always written notes and taken since I was a kid, like middle school up. And my mom was clearing out of our family home, and she was sending me some stuff, and she was sending me pictures, and she sends me this picture of this planner that I had in like 8th or 9th grade, and it was objectives, was like one of like the little columns, and my objectives were, number 1 was to be the best, two was to play in the NFL, and number 3 was to be rich and famous. And I remember looking at that and thinking to myself, like, this little I was about to play my final game of college against Oklahoma, and I was in the best shape of my life, and I wasn't sure if speaking was good, but also speaking leaves you with a lot of time. Like, you know, you're really only working for an hour, and that could be anywhere in the U.S. or the world. So I had a lot of time to dedicate to myself again, and I was decent money. I had advancements from the book, so I wasn't financially secure. And, you know, I was kind of in a space where I had created, you know, an opportunity for what I wanted to do. And football was just this lingering thing. And I was like, you know what, screw this. Like, I'm going to put some money into a training regiment, and I drove cross country out here to California. That's when I first got here to LA. My manager and agency were out here at the time, or still here, so that kind of drew me. And then I figured it was kind of a hub that I could train as well. And I put money invested in myself into combine training. Went as hard as I could for 6 weeks, flew back to Clemson, did my pro day, had a good pro.
What does that look like? What does that training regiment look like?
It's fairly it's more so, I tell people, if you think of the combine, it's really not football. So you think of the game of football, you have the game, your X's and O's, your position, that's all fine and dandy, nice. We know you can do that. You've been doing that since you were a kid. In order for us to draft you, we want to see how well you can do these 6 events to the best of your ability. So when you go into a combine, you have to take the game of football out of it, right? You're doing a 40-yard dash, you're doing a broad jump, you're doing a shuttle run, you're doing agility thing. So separated from all that, when you go to train for your combine, it's a very regimented, strategically driven workout to get you faster, essentially, to get you the best results at those 6 events of the combine that you can. So you really put down the football and pick up the track shoes, if you will. So I thoroughly enjoy combine training. You know, it's I tell people it's kind of like what everybody wants on their Instagram page for a workout, you know, like the fast paced ropes, you know, throwing the balls, you know, sweating different colors of the Gatorade commercial, you know, type thing. Like, it's intense. Like, you're sweating, you're in group training. All of you guys are driven by the same dream as to play in the NFL, potentially be drafted. A lot of you know, the majority, myself included, knew I had no chance in hell to be drafted, but you're fighting for an undrafted free agency to give you a shot to make it to preseason, into a camp. And it's really cool. It's really cool because, you know, as we started the conversation, you know, as a kid, I'm jumping on my couch over the line of scrimmage to win the Super Bowl, and now I'm really training, you know, removed from war, 2 deployments in football or college football, and I'm in the conversation with 32 NFL teams, and my name's along the line somewhere of a potential player to draft. And so that kind of fuels you, and you're really pushing to hit a pinnacle or a new threshold, if you will, in your own life, because that's only the beginning of your journey. You know, the sky is only the limit, right? Or only the beginning. Like, you have to get yourself through this combine to get onto a roster to continue to play. And I think as a competitor and somebody that always wants to push themselves, like, combine training is an amazing time, an amazing event, because you really see what you're made of. You hit ridiculous numbers, you transform your body in this window, and then you're like coming off this molded block. You know, this Michelangelo has now sculpted you. Yeah. Now go
Roman.
Perform. Yeah, now go perform. So it was really cool to like see what you, and then you're so regimented in college with like 115 to 110 guys in a weight room. Like, you know, you're doing the same workouts. They're great, mind you, but you're doing them in such mass, and then you consolidate it into the best of the best, like the chosen few, and you see what you're made out of, you know? So it was really cool to like go from big time program to like professional clientele that are really investing in their brand and making something of themselves and going to compete. So it was a fun time.
So you did really well.
I did fairly well.
Fairly well.
For my height, weight, and size, for my numbers that I put up, I did well. But to be drafted or to make any splash, no. I mean, I wasn't. Look, I mean, I had like 13 catches in college, 1 touchdown. I played primarily special teams. I tell people I practice a lot. Like, I practice a ton in college.
Sure.
But that was amazing for me. That was my game, and I didn't care. Like, nobody was shooting at me. I was exactly where I had dreamt of being, and I was being able to play football back on a university where the women were fine. So it was an all right transition for me going back to school.
So then what happens next? You're fighting for you complete that?
Yeah, I complete that, and the draft comes, and all 7 rounds go by. I wasn't Mr. Irrelevant, you know, nobody called me, and you start feeling the winds lose out of your sails, if you will, and it's like everything you worked so hard for, you know, you start thinking, okay, I got to pick up more speaking engagements. I got to maybe take a new avenue in life. I'm not sure. And then 2 days later, my phone rings, and it was the St. Louis Rams. The last year they were in St. Louis, and the Rams contacted me, the Washington Redskins contacted me, and they were offering me tryout positions. And how it goes is, until you sign as an undrafted free agent or sign with a team, you can go to as many tryouts as you want to if you're invited. And so I had 2 tryout options, and the Seahawks, I think, or the Saints. And so I had 3 tryout opportunities, and the first one was the Rams. So I went there, and I had a 2-day tryout invitation, nothing guaranteed, and I had a great 2 days. I caught everything. I had a primary punt returner brought in, and at this time, Tavon Austin had never made it through a preseason healthy. So they brought in me specifically as a punt returner to, you know, back up. I knew I wasn't going to take Tavon's job, but to keep him healthy through preseason. So I was in a very fortunate position, like just right timing of the specialty position. I put myself down as a punt returner. I got undrafted to a team that only wanted me to come into punt return. So I got tons of reps in camp. So I really made a name for myself on the team as a primary punt returner, the number 2. And so went into so at the end of those 2 days, I made an impression, and they wanted to sign me. And it was actually funny because I packed my bags at the hotel, wheeled them into breakfast like the day I was supposed to leave, and I was already like,
you were like, all right, well, it's over.
Yeah, I was already anticipating like the talks of that I was gonna be thanking the coaches with, like, I'm so appreciative of your time, like, thank you for like having me out here. Like, I was rehearsing like what I was gonna say, and I'm giving like this speech, like, thank you so much, and the guy's like, do you not want to be a Ram? You know, and I kind of I had like this like moment of just like I was like so certain, like I almost like hypnotized myself of the reality, because it was like. I remember, and I told this guy, I have a tryout with the Redskins, like in 2 days, like, and he goes, well, that's fine if you want to go be a Redskin. He's like, but we're trying to make you a Ram right now if you sign right here. And then it dawned on me, like, oh shit, he's like, I'm being offered to sign. And I go, yeah, what kind of pen do I need to sign? I was like, where's the pen at? So like clicked it right there, like suitcase in hand, signed, and I was undrafted. So they still flew me home so I could pack a bag properly. packed my bags because I was going to be there for the next like 3 months through OTAs, off season.
Boom, you're playing in the NFL.
I'm on an NFL roster, just like
wow.
that. Yeah.
I mean, imagine like where you started from
the
to
bottom.
that. I mean, that's crazy.
Bottom, yeah, no, it's the road has been event filled and not the norm to make it to the NFL for sure. But it was definitely an incredible feeling signing that paper. Getting equipment way too big for me, like no, I got to my locker and like
this is after you're in the NFL.
I sign, like I come back and they like give me my locker. I get all my stuff. I'm getting fitted, and the person whose locker was there before me they hadn't cleared it out yet, and it was like all like extra large gear, apparel. And it's like NFL equipment too. It's like all runs like 3 sizes too big already. Like smalls are like medium, So I get in there and I put this hoodie on. And it's like down to my kneecaps. I'm like, oh my goodness, like this thing doesn't even fit me. And I go to the equipment manager, and they just start laughing. They're like, oh, we don't have too many mediums around here. So they give me all my equipment. Like, nah, but it was good. Like, just getting in there and like, and then once you're in there, man, like, it's height doesn't measure heart. Like it's all about what you believe you can do, and if you believe you belong. The amount and commitment and dedication that I had put into myself and wanting to be at this level, you block out your size. You block out the pain that comes with the long days and, the X's and O's of it. Like, you're really in a position to fulfill a lifelong dream. Like so you just like check in, and not a lot of people, I feel, get to embrace or be surrounded in that zone of like, I'm exactly where I've always wanted to be. Let me lock in because I might lose this, right? And having that edge on a day in and day basis,
that hunger, right?
Yeah, it's an adrenaline rush to a degree, because you're just like, you're in there like you're hunger for sure, and you're in a reality setting, you're trying to take food off somebody else's plate.
Yeah.
Like, it's a cutthroat business. Like, the guy next to you might have a family and needs to provide as well. So you're really survival of the fittest, and at an elite epitome, if you will, of an athletic timeline of your life. And I loved it. Like, I was sitting there thriving, like competing, like winning, and doing really well for myself. And a lot of people, when I tell them I play in the NFL, their first question is like, "Oh, are you a kicker?" Like, I'm not very big, so it's always good. It's always like a good feeling when I underwhelm people with my athletic stature, because like I said, it's just about how bad you want it and what you're willing to sacrifice to get there.
Wow. Man, I mean, you just have an incredible story. It's really inspiring just to like sit back and I just start like kicking myself as I'm listening to it, like kind of judging myself. Do you find that?
That's what I've been doing the whole hour. I'm just sitting here like, I'm a fucking giant pussy, dude.
No, I do. Anytime I've ever like fucked off or done something, or I started like looking at my my actions, or I'm like, fuck. I'm like, get your shit together, man. You gotta pull it up and get it together.
And thank God that yard was fucked up, huh?
Right? Yeah. There's I've had many of those like yard moments where it's just like kind of something derails you for the right reason.
Totally.
Like you're on a train headed for not a good station. And something just derails you at the right time.
Just ride it out.
What do you accredit a lot of that to though? Like what's inside you? Is it picking good friends to surround yourself with, good habits? Like what's your repertoire for doing what you've done?
Man, it's good friends, good habits, staying true to myself. I think it's cliche, but when it's cool to talk to people, and after they know about you or you speak and they're asking you questions, you can say, I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do as a kid. I'm doing exactly what I dreamed of doing since I was a child, and maybe the road I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I'm checking boxes off in my life. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of like where I feel I've grown the most, is like I'm just being able to tick off one after the other kind of just gives me a different sense of confidence going forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like kind of And I'm actually I kind of forgot what you asked me.
Well, no, I was just it's a tough question. What I was saying is, how do you evaluate your skill set to where you are now? Is it do you wake up in the morning and at 4 a.m. and start the day doing this, and then what do you do? Like, what's the?
I remember. So for me, it's friends, surrounding myself, and mindset is a huge thing too. I think I went through a long time of doubt in the PTSD world, and coming back, and you fill your head with a ton of bullshit and distractions that are irrelevant and slow you down. And my regiment needed to shift in that way. So, when I started seeing success in my own life, it was just kind of putting my blinders on and going after it and working hard. And, we were saying earlier, this age of softness and this age of instant gratification, like, it was a time in my life where I knew I had to give it everything I had and really work for something if I wanted it. And that was just kind of like the 101 of what made Daniel, was just work hard. And when that started paying off in school and into football, I just carried that work ethic into my life now, and writing down my goals, just as I took from seeing them written down as a kid to being the best and playing in the NFL. Like, I took that lesson from that moment and continued to write down the next objectives in my life. So always having something to look forward to has been something that I try to put in my life, and that's new goals, new ideas. So I have something to look forward to. So once something is accomplished or done, there's a new chapter for me to go after and get. And I try my best not to get complacent or be stagnant in life or be mundane. Like, always try to explore something new or educate myself in a different way, or start a new conversation with somebody new, or read a new book, because I try to just keep a different attitude now in my life with where I'm at. It's just one of those things. I don't want to be complacent in my life. I want to be able to thrive and flourish as best as I can, and even though I've seen a lot to date, I want to see a lot more, and I know that from whence I came, mentalities that I've had to fight through, and moments of tragedy that I've endured, just like many of other people. If you don't have a mindset of positivity, if you don't have a structured list of goals and things that you're trying to achieve, then you're going to get slipped away and caught away in a mess and web of stress and uncertainty and doubt, and just a lot of distractions that derail you from what you could be accomplishing. And go ahead.
No, I think that's dead on. I mean,
yeah,
I think that's dead on. I mean, to people who are listening, I think that's like, that's one of the reasons I started this podcast is to inspire people to become a better version of themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And doing those good habits are what create success. It doesn't mean monetary. It just means success in your life, success in whatever you're doing. And people talk about what they want, and people who get what they want, like, really want it. So they go out and they do these habits over and over and over, because that's all we have, right? We only have so much time and so much hours in the day.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Are you going to sit on your phone and fuck around with Instagram?
Yeah.
Or are you going to put a structured list together of, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, and then I'm doing this, and then I'm having some free time?
Yeah.
You have to do that.
Bro, it's so good. It's so wild, like, having this conversation with you. Today, I was writing. I try to write every morning, like, in between workouts. Like, I'll work out, I'll go swim, or I'll write something just to mentally get a workout in as much as physically.
Yeah.
Like dodgeball, right? I like to get a mental sweat in too.
Yeah.
And I'm like writing, and it was the same thing, like trying to fulfill my day. Because, when I'm back off the road or filming, like, sometimes even a week, you're just like kicking yourself, like, oh, I'm not doing enough. And so I was like writing down today, like, keep yourself busy, like, keep yourself fulfilled, like we're saying. So, I want to take Spanish classes, I want to take a new acting class. But it's the same thing of just like giving yourself ledges of opportunity to kind of unfold in your own life. And that is such a deterrent from negativity and low places in life if you continue to give yourself a beacon of light to chase. And I think that's kind of like an important tool that I've tried to keep in my life as well is once you write these goals, stay focused on them. Like, don't let them shy away. Continue to be persistent on them, and you'll see yourself accomplishing them faster and faster. And these little habits, like you talked about, like continuing these little habits over time, these incremental habits become habitual, like moments of your life that you're just like basking in, because those little baby steps over time became strides. Those strides became raw jogs, like a run, and then next thing you know, you're running full speed in something and being something that you're proud of. And you look in the mirror, you look at somebody that's taking that step in your business life, or as a spouse, you know, accomplishing something, or as a father, or as a, you know, as a significant other, whatever it might be. And if you can create those habits that better you to be a better person, you know, every day in, every day out, then, you know, I think that we're going to see a shift in generations to come of people who are driven and not soft, and are more designed to withstand adversity and continue the fights when the going does get tough. And I feel that's just kind of what I'm trying to instill in my own life. So, you know, when I pass my gene along, or that torch along to the next person, they can look back at my road and my history book and say, you know, that's how I want to live my life. That's a way to fight through the tough times and to continue to go after what you want. And that's ultimately, you know, at my eulogy, if you will. You know, people,
I like it, man.
People say you have a great story. I say, well, I want to have an incredible eulogy. So let's wait for that. You know, so that's kind of like what this flame behind me is continuing to burn, and continue to see where the journey of life takes me.
So what are you doing now?
Well, acting.
I'm looking at a box of your water here.
The Renaissance man, if you will, D-Rod.
Mm-hmm.
So acting is coming up now, which is amazing. But also I've been on the forefront of the CBD and hemp industry for the last 2.5 years. So my last play in the NFL was a concussion against Kansas City, and I've suffered PTSD and traumatic brain injury from Iraq and Afghanistan. I've been blown up, and as I left the NFL, I was cut from the NFL, and my head was wrong, my neck was messed up. This concussion like screwed me up, changed my life, changed my perspective on the game. Knew I wasn't going to play again, and I left this battleground, if you will, another battleground. And at this time, Junior Seau had just killed himself, and the concussion movie is all coming out, and this stuff of CTE. And I have friends in the military that are killing themselves, and it's just like this veteran and athletic community are almost like one and the same to a degree, but totally different. Like, they're coming home from wars. The gladiators of our generation and J are coming home, and you know, these people are getting cut from teams or being discharged from the military, and they're losing their minds. Like, they have no purpose anymore. There's depression, and I just felt like there was this like realm that existed, that what I had been through, war and football, that I could be an advocate for. And not only that, the only solution to head traumas and injuries and PTSD and depression were opioids, and different solutions of not solutions, but just band-aids that created
Pretty bad fucking band-aids.
that creates addictions. And once I had seen enough of my friends overdose, and then you see friends that are addicted to pain pills because they're going through their 3rd or 4th surgery, and you see liver failures of friends in the NFL because of the drugs that they're on, that the NFL has prescribed. You're like, why is there not a different solution? And the more research I kept doing was CBD. And so I was at Coachella 2 years ago at a celebrity gifting suite, and I met this company at Coachella, and his son we started hitting, I drank this water, and I was like, what is this? And he's like, oh, we have molecular level CBD, you know, hemp extract. He's like, so it's non-psychoactive, this, that, and the other. And I start talking to the guy, the founder. His son had Tourette's, very successful businessman, and he was looking for an alternative for his son other than drugs. Found a scientist that broke down CBD oil to the same size as a water molecule, infused it with reverse osmosis, and put it into purified drinking water. And I was introduced to the product 2 years ago.
Hemp hydrate.
And as soon as I drank it, I knew it was something special. And fast forward 2 years now, we're about all 44 states. We have distribution in 134 countries. We're launching here in the U.S. We're in Erewhon's available on Amazon. So as the CBD and hemp space kind of unfold, it's been a fun journey for me to kind of be on the pioneering lines of that. And it's an exciting field because there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of laws passing, and I'm learning business side of me now, which is just as adrenaline filled and exciting to be in rooms and taking a company public and getting funding and this and marketing camp. It's an exciting time for me to be able to dabble in acting, speaking, and then my business life as well. So I feel like I live in the city where that's kind of common, but to be able to do it and feel healthy at the same time, like I feel like I'm in a great spot right now, which is really cool to be doing.
That's great, man. That's great. Well, shit. I think we covered a lot. What do we? How long have we been talking?
Hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
Man,
Very fast hour and a half.
Damn.
you you covered just about pretty much everything I was gonna ask.
Super inspirational.
Yeah,
man.
super
What a
inspirational,
story,
man.
dude.
And thank you so much for being so raw and like
Nah, man.
just being honest and just really
I appreciate
raw with it all. Like it's pretty.
I'm going live myself.
It's
Tim, say what's up.
no, it's really great to have someone be so fearless and unafraid to tell their story and to share some inspirational words of wisdom.
No, dude, it's like I appreciate that, man. It's like it's cool. Nah, you're cool people. Like it's funny too, like how just life works out. I mean, I remember we took a picture on set one of the days, and I sent it to my sister, and obviously big fan of yours, right? What girl isn't? And she,
sure there's
she like
messages.
She messaged me back, and she's like, how crazy. She's like, Dad's like favorite actor was Clint Eastwood, and like your first role, like your first thing in a movie is like you're co-acting, you're the star of the thing is Scott Eastwood, and it's like kind of funny, and like I'm here chatting with you, but no, dude, I admire people like yourself too, who are in a position to highlight other people and showcase times and people of inspiration during a time where I feel we need that. And I think there's a lot of negativity in this world, and I feel you're a positive beacon amongst it, and you're doing a cool thing and inspiring people as well, and spreading good words and creating good vibes. So it was amazing to work with you and be with you here today and share a
Feelings
little bit
mutual,
more,
brother.
man, dude. So super cool.
Well, all right. Until next time.
All right.